Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
Hi, this is former Disneyland art director Tom Butch, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Aye, mateys, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock Podcast. Proceed at your own risk, and mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast, a show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's playing in theaters, and what's going on in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon, one of your co-hosts, musician and longtime Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars fan, and of course a huge lover of pop culture. And you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, I can't even believe we're almost at the end of January already. And I would say it's been an apocalyptic January out here in Los Angeles with all these devastating fires. It's just been absolute insanity. But nonetheless, we're pushing forward. Fortunately, it's rained out this past weekend, so it's really tamped down whatever was left of some of these fires. But we have a great show. We have part 3 of our interview with animator Darlie Brewster, which I think has just been a fantastic interview.
It has been, for one. I mean, well, first, before we do that, Dave, I'm glad that you're okay. And I'm glad that some of our other guests and listeners out there on, in the LA County area have been able to at least, survive. And I know as you're starting to pick up the pieces and kind of put things back together, we wish you all the best. And our hearts are definitely with you at this time.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we have to offer is a little bit of entertainment and a respite from all the craziness.
Most certainly.
So, that's all I can say.
Absolutely.
Last week we had the Hughes fire, and that was the one that was fairly close to where I live.
Yes.
But fortunately, we were just far enough away. We didn't get any evacuation notifications, but they evacuated 31,000 people to the north of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
It is. And once again, we're here for you. Thank you for listening and having us be a little bit of a ray of sunshine there in what's going on. And thanks to all of our listeners for the support. And also, it's great to have Darlie back on for week 3. And it's great to have because she's very prolific. She's had
she's
so
had
many
an incredibly
projects.
prolific career, and just a wild life of traveling too.
It has been, and I think it's really cool though that she's made it a point to work with these iconic franchises and characters and do things, where she's able to work for Disney and Warner Brothers and do, the Daffy Duck and Bugs and do all those great things that she wants to do. And work on Saturday morning cartoons and get all those things at Hanna-Barbera. And I just think that it's great that you hear about someone that is living their dream, right?
There you go. Living the dream.
Really
That's all you can ask for. and by the way, Aljon, I have to say, and this is on me, but we haven't mentioned the fact that January marks the 25th anniversary of Fantasia 2000.
Dave, that's your movie.
I spent 5 years working on that movie.
That's your film.
Right? So 25th anniversary. It's hard to believe. Now, some might argue the 25th anniversary really started in December, and I'm one of those people that would say I think it did, because it actually premiered at Carnegie Hall in New York City in late December of 1999.
Does that make it in contention for the?
And then it went
Academy?
into wide release in 2000.
Yeah,
in January of 2000.
So that made it eligible for Academy Award contention, correct?
Yes, it certainly would have if it got a nomination.
Well,
but I'm very proud of that movie. I consider it my swan song on the feature side of animation, and it certainly holds a lot of memories. And I think we'll probably do a show or two on Fantasia 2000 during the year because it's worth it.
Well, it'd be great to get some of the old crew back that you worked with and to get your take on that film. In fact, now that you mention it, I'm going to have to put it in my rewatch list with the kiddos because we did watch Fantasia 2000, and we'll have to get back on the horse and revisit it, and that way we can talk about it. So
awesome.
Such a great
I'll post something about it in the next week or so on my social feed.
Absolutely.
So,
well, before we get into our guests and some of our hot topics we're going to discuss this week, I do believe we have
Skull Rock Podcast answers your email.
What's in the email bag, Dave?
I got to say, we got an email from Chris Banis, our friend over at the Grand Circle podcast, which is a terrific podcast she does with Stan Solo. She says, hey, Dave and Aljon, with the start of this year already almost a month in, and we've had a rocky start with the horrid things in California, I thought we could all use a good chuckle.
Okay.
She says, what do you call a cartoon character who gets into trouble at school?
What, Dave?
Suspended animation. She says, have a great week. Well, thanks, Chris. We really appreciate the email from you. We also got another note from listener Eric, a friend of ours in Honolulu, who said he watched Kneecap, a movie I talked about last week based on our recommendations. He watched it and actually loved it. So, again, I'm going to try and spotlight some of these little gem movies that, kind of are out there, but don't get the wide release where you'd see it at your local multiplex. I found Kneecap on the Academy streaming app that I have access to because of the Academy Awards. And I found a number of really interesting movies on that I think people should seek out. Kneecap was one of them, Aljon.
There you go.
So, and you know what? We continue to get notes on our social media feeds from various listeners. I got a nice note from Paul from Parts Unknown, who said he's still traveling, but was sending good thoughts to us out here in Los Angeles because of the fires. So, we really appreciate you guys sending in notes to us. So keep it up.
Nice. All right. Well, once again, we appreciate that. And now here we are with what is our picks of the week, Dave.
Well, again, I want to start out with a couple of small movies. One is called Small Things Like These. In 1985, coal merchant Bill Furlong uncovers disturbing secrets in a small Irish town that's controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. And this stars Cillian Murphy. Aljon, Cillian Murphy from Oppenheimer.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, he's done so many great projects over the years. This is a small movie. It's a little on the slow side. It takes place in a small Irish town. It's beautifully shot. I thought, again, it's a small movie and it's a little slow, but I enjoyed it. I liked the character that Cillian Murphy plays, who is the Bill Furlong, a coal merchant. And it's just a wonderful small film. So check out Small Things Like These. Then I watched a hilarious movie. It's called Wicked Little Letters, and it stars Jessie Buckley as Rose Gooding and Olivia Colman as Edith Swan. When residents begin to receive wicked letters full of hilarious profanities, foul-mouthed Rose is charged with the crime. However, as the town's women investigate, they suspect that something is amiss and that Rose may not be the culprit after all. This is an absolutely hilarious movie. It's a period piece. It takes place in like the 1920s, 30s in a seaside town in England. And these letters that are showing up to various people are hysterical, and they are just profanity laced, hilarious letters. And I just can't recommend this one enough. I think you'll laugh out loud when you watch this. It's absolutely hysterical. Jessie Buckley, who plays Rose Gooding, the foul-mouthed Irish woman who's accused of writing these letters, she is hysterical, absolutely hilarious. It gets 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I would absolutely check that out. Okay. Nice. By the way, small things like these with Cillian Murphy got 90 Rotten Tomatoes. So there you have it. I would highly recommend Wicked Little Letters. You'll have a good laugh. Then on the small screen, Aljon, Night Agent season 2 has dropped.
Okay.
And, if you haven't watched this is actually a good first season. While monitoring an emergency line, an FBI agent answers a call that plunges him into a deadly conspiracy involving a mole at the White House. So now we're into season 2, and it's a new storyline. Rotten Tomatoes gives this show 81%, IMDb 7.5 out of 10. Stars Gabriel Basso as Peter Sutherland, the lead character, who's the night agent. And it's a terrific series. So I'm halfway through season 2, and I'm enjoying it. That's on Netflix.
All right.
Then Shifting Gears. Have you heard about Shifting Gears?
I have. It's on my watch list.
Okay, so this is Tim Allen's new sitcom.
Yeah.
He plays Matt, who's a stubborn widowed owner of a classic car restoration shop. When Matt's estranged daughter and her kids move into his house, the real restoration begins. So this is playing on ABC and on Hulu. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 42% and IMDb 6.1%. Here's the thing I will tell you, and I understand why Rotten Tomatoes says 42%.
Right.
It's not very good, but I watched 3 episodes so far, and each one is getting better, and the cast is getting comfortable with each other. So the first episode is a bit stilted, I thought, and not really funny. But it starts to get a little funnier in the second episode and the third episode. So you may want to give this a shot. I like Tim Allen. I've always liked, shows that he's been in, like Home Improvements, and there was the other
Last
one.
Man Standing.
Remember. What is it? Last Man Standing. Thank you. Yeah. So I would give this a chance, and I hope ABC gives this a full season chance, because I think these are the types of shows when they're new, it's not right out of the gate great.
That happens a lot, though, doesn't it? With sitcoms?
I think so. I think so, especially with series television. When a new series drops, you have to give it, 2 or 3, 4 episodes. Give it a chance, because they're building and getting comfortable with one another. That's my assessment of it. Don't judge it by the first episode, because the first episode is not very good.
Not only Tim Allen in it, but Kat Dennings from Two Broke Girls and MCU.
And Sean William Scott is in it.
Scott, yeah, exactly.
He's terrific.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, and Brenda Song too. I mean, there's a bunch of people in this show, so I think it'll end up finding its rhythm at some point.
Yeah, I think so, and I think people should give it a chance. Now, over on MGM Plus, which I get through Amazon Prime, Rogue Heroes is in its second season, and I think I talked about this a while ago for the first season. This is during World War II. Eccentric young officer David Sterling is hospitalized in Cairo after a training exercise accident. Bored, he starts thinking that he accepted war methods, that the accepted war methods are wrong, and hits on a radical plan. He fights for permission to recruit the toughest, boldest, and brightest soldiers for a small undercover unit that will create mayhem behind enemy lines. More rebels than soldiers, Sterling's team are every bit as complicated, flawed, and reckless as they are astonishingly brave and heroic. So this really centers on the the SAS during World War II. This was a British Special Air Services group, and Rotten Tomatoes gives this 100%. IMDb gives it 0.1. All I can tell you is that this is a fantastic World War II period show that takes place in North Africa during season 1 and then in Sicily for season 2. And they intercut some historic footage from World War II. So it's loosely based on facts, but it's clearly says at the beginning of the show, this is not a history lesson. But what a fantastic cast of characters. Connor Swindells plays David Sterling. You've got Alfie Allen. You've got, who else is in here? Dominic West, Stuart Campbell, Bobby Schofield. I'm trying to find out. It's such an ensemble cast of characters. It's just fantastic. I think this is one of those shows that you really need to watch, and you'll actually, I think, really enjoy this because the production value is off the charts. So check it out. And again, IMDb gives it 100%. So if you haven't watched this, watch season 1. Again, MGM Plus. It's also available, let's see, it's available to Amazon Prime subscribers because Amazon owns MGM now. So you can get it on MGM Plus. You can get it on Amazon Prime. It's on the Roku channel, Sling TV. So if you got any of those, check this out. Rogue Heroes. It's absolutely a fantastic show.
Nice.
And then I watched the second season of White Lotus on Max, HBO Max, and it stars Jennifer Coolidge, Leo Woodall, Theo James, Aubrey Plaza's in it, Sydney Sweeney. Just a terrific cast. It follows, it's an all-star cast, head to a resort and unleash their worst, most privileged impulses. So season 1 took place, in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
At a resort in Hawaii. Season 2 takes place at a resort in Italy. And it's absolutely fabulous. I would just say check this out because it's got a great cast. Season 1 is terrific. Season 2 is equally terrific. So that's what I've been watching. Aljon, what have you been watching?
Well, Dave, it was your recommendation that I check out The Wild Robot. And Wild Robot, it just recently was added onto Peacock. And so had the family check out this animated tour de force. I'm calling it a tour de force. It was a shipwreck. An intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz bonds with the native animals and cares for an orphan baby goose. This, of course, you talked about a few weeks ago. Roz is voiced by Lupita Nyong'o, who I have an affinity for. Also, Pedro Pascal is Fink, Kit Connor, Bill Knightley. There's tons of people. Ving Rhames is in this. Mark Hamill, Catherine O'Hara is in this. There is a bunch of all-star voiceovers, but it is directed by Chris Sanders and then also written by Chris Sanders and Peter Brown based on his book. And Dave, immediately after I saw it with a fam, I texted you and I said,
yes,
Chris just knocked it out of the park. And,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, Aljon, the Wild Robot to me is one of the best animated films of 2024, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit. But it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Picture,
and it should be. It's beautiful, but more so than that, it has a great story. It has heart. And I told Kristen, I said, who did this? I said, it's Chris Sanders, and she's like, oh wow. So she said, yeah, Lilo and Stitch. I said, yeah, Lilo and Stitch and a bunch of other Disney Renaissance films and The Croods, the stuff that my kids love. I mean,
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, everything,
he knows how to make a movie.
He knows how to make a movie. He knows how to tug at the heartstrings, and I think it's just years and years of that Disney boot camp training of plussing this idea of like, what if we had this idea? It always starts with a what if, right? What if we had this idea of this robot landing here, and then what is at the heart of it? What could be the potential heart of this film, and expanding on it, and then creating a cast of characters that surround it and add to the story to push that element forward. And so they set it up properly, and they pay it off in such a big way. And at the end, it's like the perfect kind of like robot AI ending at the end. I can't tell you, I'm smiling about this film. Guys, if you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. It'll change your life. It's great. And you're right. It does deserve where it needs to be, getting a nomination for an Oscar, because it's really, really good.
I honestly, I hope it wins, because I think it is the best animated film of 2024.
Well, you know more than me, Dave, because you've seen it all. You've seen all the great films coming out this year, and some of the not so great ones, so you would know. Yeah. I will put my 2 cents in for this new TV series. It's called High Potential, Dave.
I've watched it, Aljon. I've watched the entire first season. I was going to talk about it next week, but you got it.
It's great. It's great. So this is a whodunit crime kind of, you've seen these type of procedurals where they are looking for the bad guy. And thanks to the exceptional mind of single mom of 3 Morgan, she's able to help this police unit solve crimes as she rearranges evidence during her shift as a cleaner for the police department. She has an eidetic memory. Whatever she's able to read and absorb, she helps put that big brain of hers to work. And the reason why she hasn't worked for the police or held down any kind of singular job is because she's got like ADD. She's very I guess maybe that's what you call it, right? So she has a scatterbrain, but she's able to really put her talents to work with the police office and really help out these crimes. While it's listed as a whodunit, a crime, a drama, mystery, I will say that there's elements of comedy in there that I can align it to a show like Lucifer. If you ever watched Lucifer, it's a great show, once again, that also involves cops, but it has a little bit of that comic book humor. Of course, Lucifer was based on a DC comic character, but there is that tinge of kind of like cheekiness to it, which made it very endearing. And I think this show also has a little bit of that. While it's not as, I'm going to talk about how I've been catching up with Law & Order SVU, which is very dramatic, very much in drama and character over the past, almost 25 years of that show being on air. This show, I think, is a lot of fun. And I think while it doesn't take itself too seriously, there's enough drama and elements in it for it to be a drama. And I really appreciate the cast as well. I think they get along great. I think Caitlin Olsen, who plays Morgan, who's the lead, is a very good character. She takes up the screen. She works it. She's very likable. So I dig it. So I give it some good marks.
Yeah, no, she's terrific. A lot of people might recognize her from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
100%, yes.
She was also in The Mick, which was a short-lived series. She's been in Hacks. She's been in a lot of stuff over the years, but I will say that this is a really terrific show from the standpoint that she owns the screen. She, every scene she's in, she lights it up. She's got energy. Daniel Sunjata is Detective Karadek, who she's partnered with. You may remember him as one of the police officers in the Castle series.
Yes.
And he was terrific in that. So I think they put a good group of actors together that seem to have chemistry together. And all I would say is give this a shot, right? Because it's a fun, look, it's a network procedural, detective show, but it does have this interesting edge of comedy to it, I think, that you mentioned, but it's a good cast and it's a good whodunit. And, I like watching shows where I haven't figured out who did it, 5 minutes into the show.
Yeah. That's the key. I think that is the key. And I think the other thing too is, while it is, as Dave says, procedural with a hint of comedy, I like the through line because it leaves you wanting more every single week. There's a nice thread that they weave, which is what I believe episodic TV should do these days, is that yes, there is an A and a B and maybe a C plot that they're able to tidy up, but they have that undercurrent that is able to go through an entire season, much like Matlock or anything else. So good for them on doing that. And as I mentioned too, I am catching up with my episodes now that the new season is afoot. Law & Order Special Victims Unit is going for an unprecedented, oh my gosh, how many? This is 566 episodes, Dave.
Wow. Wow.
I've been with this series 26 years, Dave. 26 years, Law & Order
Is
SVU.
it still the original cast from the beginning, or has it completely changed?
It's the only one that is left on this show. There are two, I guess, is Mirza Hargitay, who plays Olivia Benson, and then Ice-T, who kind of came on early on as Detective Tutuola. They're the guys that are still there from the original cast, and even Ice-T is not in every episode, but
yeah.
Just when you think they've said everything they needed to say, there's still great character explorations. And I really appreciate the fact that, they are taking the time to explore these other characters and see what makes them tick and introduce new ones that actually were brought into the cast in a great way. So I'm really liking some of the newer cast members that have kind of come into the fold over the past season or two. And once again, great dramas are great dramas. There'll always be great police shows. There'll always be great hospital shows or doctor shows. That is just a staple of what we watch, and lawyer shows as well. And I think SVU, congratulations, 26 years, and Mirza Hargitay is always a great actress to watch. So congratulations. What have you been watching? Let us know. Give us a shout and let us know what you're watching. Maybe we'll review your recommendation for a future episode.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
All right, Dave, here we go. The weekend box office. Flight Risk leads the quiet weekend with a decent $11 to $12 million opening weekend. That's a projection. Mel Gibson's directed Flight Risk is doing really well at the box office. I haven't seen this, but it looks really good. To be quite honest, I think everybody's kind of waiting for the Super Bowl to launch a list of new movies and films to open up this blockbuster season here in February. So this is the quiet time.
Yeah, and I actually will be talking about Flight Risk next week.
Okay, good.
I'll give you my assessment of that next week.
Okay, that's great. Of course, that's a Lionsgate film. Flight Risk stars Mark Wahlberg as a pilot transporting air marshal accompanying a mob-connected witness, Topher Grace, to trial. So this looks very interesting. And so that's basically it. And of course, there's others in here as well. There are, of course, Moana 2 is doing well, still doing well, hanging in there at $3 million. Steven Soderbergh's horror thriller Presence that I want to see at some point, also around a $2-3 million list as well. So once again, this is the quiet time, Dave. The calm before the storm, if you will.
Absolutely.
So, Dave, you also mentioned that the full list of Oscar nominees has been published. Of course, Amelia Perez leads the nominees with 13, followed by The Brutalist and Wicked with 10 apiece. And quite a list here, Dave. I don't know if you want to hit some of your highlights, but there's a lot.
First and foremost, we should talk about the animated feature films, right? So, Flow was nominated, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. Those are the 5 animated feature films that were nominated. I've seen most of them. There's still one I have to watch, and that's Memoir of a Snail. And I'm going to try and watch that this week and talk about it next week. Animated shorts, you've got 5, Beautiful Men, In the Shadow of the Cypress, Magic Candies, Wander to Wonder, and Yuck. So, and I'm not sure where people, I'm imagining you could probably Google some of these and you might be able to find them online, someplace to watch, but it's always difficult for the mainstream America to be able to watch animated shorts,
Wouldn't it be great if Disney decided to just double down and distribute some of these on the Plus platform so people can see them?
It would be a great thing for them to do, but, honestly, they don't look at the world through that kind of a lens.
Yeah.
They, if they didn't make it, then they don't want to show it and, that kind of stuff.
I just think it'd be great to have someone kind of champion some of these filmmakers, because it is animation after all, and I think having a one-stop shop to do it would be great.
Honestly, I would think one of the streaming services, somebody would sit there and say, hey, why don't we get, all of the, the 5 nominated animated shorts and put a program together where we show them all.
I think that would be great. I mean, I feel like, independent films and these type of films, someone should champion it and give these up. If they were great enough to be nominated, they should be great enough to get some kind of distribution for people to see.
You know what I was happy to see in the nominations was A Complete Unknown for Best Picture.
Yeah, I got to see that. Did you see some of my guitars in it, Dave? Did you see my guitars in that movie, Dave?
Absolutely.
All right, good.
And Timothy Chalamet got a nomination as actor in a leading role, but also it's worth noting that Edward Norton got a nomination for A Complete Unknown in a supporting role. He plays, of course, Pete Seeger, and honestly, I have to tell you, you don't even know it's Edward Norton. He absolutely transforms into Pete Seeger, and I've seen tons of interviews with Pete Seeger over the years. I've seen him perform, and Edward Norton just embodied Pete Seeger. I mean, it was really quite amazing.
Did I tell you that Ed Norton and some of the cast of A Complete Unknown stopped by our London Gibson showroom and signed autographs?
Oh, no, that's fantastic.
Yeah, they just came in, and then he was shopping for guitars, apparently. That's what the Hollywood guys do. They always come into our shop to shop for guitars, and, of course, brought the entire cast in and signed movie posters. I wish I had one of those posters to hang.
That would have been nice.
That would have been amazing.
A Complete Unknown also got nominated for writing adapted screenplay. So, there's some interesting choices in the nominations. But certainly it was, I'm trying to see here. The other thing I wanted to point out, Aljon, third year in a row that Disney Animation did not get a nomination for an Academy Award.
Oh, imagine that.
Not even for, an original song, and, it's sad to see that.
Well, at least Inside Out has an opportunity, right? I mean, Inside Out 2 is a great film. Go check it out. It's once again, it's a comeback, if you will.
Yeah, and also I would point out that Flow, the animated feature I talked about last week, not only got nominated for Best Animated Feature Film, but also for International Feature Film because it's from Latvia.
Great. That's right.
So anyway, that's where you are with the Academy Awards. And I know a lot of people feel like with the Academy Awards, and I don't blame you. They sort of look at the Academy Awards and half the films are like, what are these films? I've never seen these films.
Yeah. I mean, I know
they don't get wide release, or they're small art movies that, a select group of people, rally around.
Well, you are an Academy voter. You are a filmmaker, Dave. What do you think the Academy needs to do to be relevant this time?
I honestly, first and foremost, some of these award ceremonies are just too long. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make them into variety shows, and they really need to keep it contained to 2 hours. In my mind, but also I think that there needs to be a lot more and maybe it's just they have so many different award ceremonies, they People's Choice Awards and the Golden Globes and the this and the that, but the Academy Awards are the pinnacle of it all, and it is all these films are voted on by the members. I just feel as though some of these smaller movies need to get much wider release so the public can see them.
Yeah,
I don't know what the answer is, Aljon.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's above my pay grade.
It's above your pay grade. You see, but I got to ask the question. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, everyone's striving to be relevant, and people are looking at and I think if people just concentrate on making entertainment for the masses, and people have just this less elitist view and make it more accessible, as you said, to more people, I think you're going to find that people are looking to be entertained, and I think if you give the audience a chance, they might surprise you. That's all I'm saying. The 97th Annual Academy Awards will be hosted by Conan O'Brien, one of my personal favorites. They will be airing live coast to coast Sunday, March 2nd from the Dolby Theater at Ovation Hollywood, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific rather, and 7 p.m. Eastern, continuing with the earlier start time. The show debuted last year on ABC and Hulu, so we will see how that's going to be distributed. Should be very, very interesting. Now, just a little bit of a note. We alluded to the fact that my company Gibson and Gibson Gives, our charitable arm, is joining forces with music brands and humanitarian aid organizations to support and provide immediate assistance to people affected with the LA fires. So please check this out. You know, we as a company gave an initial $250,000 to wildfire relief, and we are bringing music to the community and bringing the community together to offer support and donations to the LA musicians who lost guitars and gear. So multiple music brands we've kind of banded together with Guitar Center and Gibson Gives as well. For more details on that, got GibsonFoundation.disaster relief. I'll put a link in the show notes. We partnered up with Pioneer and Audio-Technica, and a bunch of other great guitar manufacturers and drum manufacturers as well, and nonprofit music organizations. So people that have been affected, we are willing to grant a special one-time grant to replace that gear. All you have to do is apply. I will have a link in the show notes between now and February 20. You can go to even GibsonGives.org to check that out. And then our CEO, Cesar Goikin, says, in recent wildfires have deeply impacted our artists and friends in LA. Gibson is committed to donating directly to these incredible organizations and working together with music community to deliver immediate and impactful aid to help communities rebuild. So there's a lot of great stuff there where we're granting replacement instruments, assistance to individual artists, shelter support, fundraising for first responders and community assistance with the LA Foundation, the LAF Fire Department, SoCal Fire Fund, the Eaton Fire Relief and Recovery Fund, and the American Red Cross, school programs, employee programs, animal relief as well, which is a big thing. We've partnered with Mutt Nation alongside one of our artists, Miranda Lambert, to help animals. And you know, Dave, I'm a big animal rescue advocate. So there you have it. We'll have all the links in the show notes, but I think it's a really great thing to be involved in, and there's so many people affected, so we definitely want to help out.
And the other thing I would mention is just be careful, folks. There's a lot of scam artists out there. There's a lot of people trying to rip off folks during these, difficult times, these disasters. There's people that come in and loot. There's people that are running scams, trying to get you to donate money to things that are not legit.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you check out the legitimate charities, the Red Cross, Gibson Guitars, established names out there that are trying to do some good, and don't fall for some of these GoFundMe things that are not legit. Some of them are, and if you know they are, great, help out those people but some of them are absolute scams, and everybody wants to help during these times of disaster, but just put your thinking cap on and just step back for a moment and make sure what you're donating to is a legit charity.
Exactly right. Stay away from those scammers. They come out of the woodwork in times of disaster. So don't be taken. Don't be taken.
Roll call.
All right, Dave, this week a couple notable passings. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Jack DeMave, actor on Lassie and The Mary Tyler Moore Show, dies at 91. And once again, you may not know the name, but you know the face. He also played the Lone Ranger in commercials and appeared in lawmen in parades. This guy has got a definite old school Hollywood look about him. Of course, Jack DeMave, who played U.S. Forest Ranger on Lassie, which I remember, an unconventional date for Valerie Harper's Rhoda on the second episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, has died. He was 91. He died on the 16th in hospice care in Macon, Georgia. He'd suffered a heart attack on Thanksgiving Day, she said. Oh, that's a shame. But you'll know him from
but you know what?
shows,
91. Yes. Wow. You make it into your 90s, you've had a full life.
Yes.
I
agree.
And like you said, Aljon, he's a very recognized. If you see a picture of him, he's very recognizable. You'll absolutely, of a certain generation, you'll absolutely say, oh, I remember him. You know?
Well, Lassie is one of my favorite shows growing up. I watched it in reruns, of course. Yeah. But of course, Lassie, you just love Lassie. And, so anyway, yes, rest in peace, man. Whoa. I mean, what a career. Also, in a career that hits close to home, John Sykes, the guitarist for Thin Lizzy and Whitesnake, has passed away at the age of 65. Dave, so young. The British.
I was going to say, I mean, that is young, but a lot of times, the rock and roll lifestyle is not kind to people.
Certainly is not. Of course, this British musician also released numerous solo albums in front of the band Blue Murder. A lot of people remember the quintessential Whitesnake album that came out, I believe, 87. And of course, he wrote In the Still of the Night so many of those great songs there from Whitesnake's seventh album. This Is Love, that's one of his main songs that he wrote on. I think a lot of people remember from that era. Of course, he also performed with Whitesnake, of course, Thin Lizzy and the Tigers of Pantang, and his own band Blue Murder, which was amazing as well, known for his great guitar tone and his shredding lead guitar riffs. John Sykes, man. Oh, what a tremendous loss. And I really, really am a big fan of his. We've done signature guitars with him over the years as well. And what a tremendous talent. So please look him up. His career is on Rolling Stone. And if you want, go back and listen to the masterwork, which is Whitesnake's seventh album in 1987, self-titled, with the Still of the Night. It's just an amazing rock song.
It's just sad to see somebody go this young. I mean, he had an incredible career, but 65, boy.
Yeah, 65. And, he seemed much older to me. And I guess it's because when I started playing guitar when I was about 12 years old. And, of course, it was the 80s. And seeing him, perform, I thought he was just much older. I thought, some of these guys were much older than they were, but they were very young. Yeah. And so, man, rest in peace, John Sykes. Well, gang, that leads us up to our main attraction, if you will, the main event. Darlie Brewster is back for round 3. She's sitting in the hot seat and once again talking about her life and times, great animation career. So sit back and relax and enjoy part 3 of our talk with animator Darlie Brewster right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we are back again for week 3 with Darlie Brewster, an amazing animator and somebody who's been in the industry and really worked at a lot of various studios. Darlie, welcome back to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Hi, Dave and Aljon.
Hello.
It's great to continue this conversation. And I don't want to dwell on this topic, but I do want to sort of start with where we left off last week, which was you took a year off. Yeah. It was around the time. Did you do Curious George before you took the year?
Yeah, before I'd already started transition during it. Like I'd actually started it a couple years before. But, it's one of the things that, you decide how you're going to do it. And I thought, well, nothing like having to do crazy amounts of animation at the same time you're going through surgery and all this other stuff, which I said, I'm going to be nice to me for the first time. Be nice to yourself.
You did some podcasting and you were very successful with those podcasts, which is awesome. How did people in the industry react? I'm just curious, how did they react to the fact that you were going to transition? Because when you start that process, you had to live as a woman for a while, right?
Yep, for at least a year before they allow you to do anything. But, in private, I'd already started anyway, and I had a therapist for almost 2 years going through this, because what they like to do is they like to eliminate anything that could possibly be, driving you in depression or things like that. And it really wasn't that. It was actually the opposite way around. It was like the transition thing was screwing up everything around me because I was so miserable and unhappy. And anybody who knew me at that time knew I was not a very happy person. And it's very hard I felt like I couldn't take credit for what I was doing because it wasn't really me. Does that make sense?
To some degree, but I did notice, like on your IMDb, a lot of your credits are just D. Brewster.
Yeah, that was one of my friends who is part of the LGBT. Because IMDb doesn't recognize your gender change or whatever, they only go by credits because that's what they do.
Right.
One of my friends went through and changed it all, and I was able to, by getting a IMDb Pro, take over my profile. So it was one of the places that outed me most.
Okay.
Whenever I was doing a job or having to do something and someone would go, oh, yeah, I saw your IMDb and that's your other name on it and stuff. And and it's just like, I'm not a transgender animator. I'm an animator. So.
And I wanted to ask you about that because you mentioned that towards the end of the last episode, and I think that's really kind of important because you first and foremost you're an artist and you're an animator, but you don't want to be labeled as a transgender animator.
Yeah. No one wants to be, the gay animator or the transgender animator or the black animator or the whatever. Right. We're all just,
you're
artists.
You're just an animator.
Yeah. So I don't want to. You don't want someone to hire you because you're transgender or black or a woman or whatever.
Right.
You want them to hire you because you're good at what you do.
Yeah,
that's right. You're a kick-ass animator.
Because you are a very good animator, did you feel that it made it any easier for you? Were people in the industry, because it's an arts-based industry, were people more receptive?
Well, there's definitely more liberal people, but there are friends who were, they're conservatives. They voted they probably voted for Trump. Whatever. And some people, they'll treat you like, well, I knew that person, but I don't know you, So
did you actually have that happen?
Yes, I did.
Really?
I had it with very famous people. I'm not going to bring them up because I love them very much. But the point is, they said because you transition, they think that you're a completely different person. And that's not what happens, actually. You're the real person, and the other person is the fake thing. So, because you're fulfilling these stereotypical norms that everybody thinks that you're supposed to be,
right?
And that just is a recipe for disaster. And you end up. I would be in severe depression. I would be on a couch for like 3 days, because I could not get up. Because it was just, everything seemed so hopeless and wasted. And the story goes way back to my childhood, It was and I tried to tell my mother, and my mother did not take it well. She took it really badly. And I won't talk about what happened, but she went kind of ballistic. So
I mean, clearly something like this is a difficult thing to go through.
And for everyone around you.
Yeah.
Hard for them to go through.
I mean, I'm imagining friends walking on eggshells a little bit because they're not sure that if they say something the wrong way or whatever. Yeah. In fact, I even said that with Aljon on the show that he and I did last week. We were I was reviewing Will and Harper, the documentary. That's out on Netflix, and I even stopped at one point and said, I'm going to screw this up. Maybe, I don't know. I'll say what I'm going to say, but it's sort of, you do become a little self-conscious because you want to make sure that you're not offending the person, but saying something that's, maybe it, is no longer a term used or whatever, you know what I mean?
Well, that second thought is a good thing because it means you're considering it. It's not about making mistakes because it's about learning from the mistakes you make.
Yes.
I'm a white person. I had privilege and people don't understand. Once you transition, you don't just lose that privilege. You lose that privilege and female privilege. So it's gone.
Yeah.
Because you're transgender and you'll never be a real woman, or you'll never be a real man, or you'll never be, this concept that you become, you're in this gray area where you're confused. I wasn't confused at all, ever.
Right.
It was everyone else who was confused by my presentation.
So you took the year off, you went through all the medical procedures, and you come out the back end and you get back into the business. You start working again.
Can I say that?
Yes, please.
Ricardo Curtis, who was one of the animators under me when I was on Quest before I quit that job, just a wonderful animator. And he opened his own studio in Canada because Pixar wouldn't hire his wife, who was an amazing artist. And anyway, so he phones me up and says, "Hey, you want to do this? Do you want to do this job, this elephant job, Horton?" And I said, okay, sure. So he hired me, and well, he was no longer a student. He ended up buying Red Rover, the company up there and stuff. He's just like one of those people who's a super talent. And anyway, he let me do it, and that got me back in. I started again.
So you got back in doing Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah, did the whole sequence. Yes,
it's a great sequence. It's actually that film. But my kids bond over that film. It's such a great.
Yeah, I love it too.
I mean, I loved it as a story when I was a kid, but then when I saw the movie, it just fell in love with it all over again. So excellent work on that sequence.
Yeah, thank you. It got like 250,000 hits in the first 3 days. Somebody posted it illegally on YouTube, and there was like massive hits on that thing. So, and it was funny for me because I really enjoyed the movie, and I really loved Blue Sky as a company. I thought they were a great company. And,
so you got back into the business on Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah.
Did you kind of feel like you kind of slid right back into it?
Yeah, it was pretty easy actually. I didn't have any. I was so happy. How can you be? Whether you get a job or you don't get a job, it doesn't really matter because you're living a normal life finally, and you feel like your days are, joy every single day, and it's still been that way since the beginning. Since the transition has been, it's just a joy every day.
I'm going to ask you a stupid question. I'm going to ask it anyway. When you come out the other end after all the medical procedures and everything, are you still considered transgender, or are you now a woman?
Well, officially on paper and everything, I am transitioned to female.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be called a transgender person.
No, not really. But, for the classification of people,
After you have the surgery, you come out, aren't you now a woman and not a transgender person?
Yes. In the government's eyes, that is what I am, because I've had the full thing. And then, the only people who don't consider that are people who are trying to be like, they say there's no such thing as gender, but they want to define by biological terms rather than social terms, because gender is a social term. And so it doesn't reflect biology, if that makes sense. I know it's confusing, but yeah.
All right. Well, so you're back in the business. You've done Horton Hears a Who, and then you go on to Family Guy.
Yeah, actually, what happened was I was approached by a company called Main Street, who was working for Family Guy, and they wanted to do a Disney sequence. So I did most of the Disney sequence through this Main Street, and it was a lot of fun. It was really fast, really brutal.
I'm sorry, I was going to ask you: are you back? You're living in Los Angeles doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I never left Los Angeles.
Oh, so like with Horton Hears a Who, some of that was done up in Canada.
That was all,
but you were doing it freelance.
Freelance, yeah. I was doing it freelance. Oddly enough, I was doing it freelance through a Canadian company to Blue Sky, because Ricardo's company was doing everything, like all the storyboards and everything for Blue Sky. And I said, New York at there?
Yeah, they were like Rochester. They were not Rochester. They were outside of New York, like White Plains or something.
Yeah, around that area. So it was really close for Ricardo and his company. So he could hop across from Ontario to Blue Sky. And he hired me while I was in Los Angeles. So I got my cleanup keys down here. And I had them send it over there. So yeah, that was fun. That one was fun.
And then I'm curious now, because after Family Guy, you did Happiness is a Warm Blanket, Charlie Brown.
Yep. There was local. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, wasn't that done up at Wild Brain in Canada?
No, actually it was done. Frank, what's his name? God. Frank, over here, he was doing it. They were doing it down the street. So we were basically, Wendy Perdue and I, we were posing a lot of scenes. So we would do but they were not posing. They were full animation, some of them, but they were posing supposedly.
That Frank Mullery?
No, it's the guy I worked with on. There were 4 leads on Looney Tunes Back in Action. He was one of them.
Gotcha.
There's myself, Jeff Sergey, and Frank. God, it's going to come to me. I should look it up. I've got a computer, but I don't want to mess up the thing.
Yeah, and so were they doing that Charlie Brown special as was it CG or was it all 2D?
It's all 2D. It was all 2D. That's why
because the more recent specials they've done are up at Wild Brain and they're CG, but they're rendered to look 2D.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's Blue Sky who did that movie. It's all CG.
It wasn't the movie. It was there's a couple more half-hour specials that I think Wild Brain had done. Okay. But how was it working on Charlie Brown?
It was a joy. It was like total joy. One of the things that you dream about when you're a kid doing, and you're an animation geek, which I was. I was the Frankenstein Jr. and all the Hanna-Barberas and the Herculoids and all that stuff. That's what I wanted to work on when I grew up. It's just the most fun because, you can feel that history, especially of those characters. Those, I was reading Charles Schulz in college. I had mounds of those Charles Schulz books.
The paperbacks.
The paperbacks. I must have had like 50 of them or something, and I would read them on the bus going to college. So yeah, it was a joy. I'm really happy that I got a chance to do that on my bucket list of doing that stuff.
It's good stuff. And then from that you went on to Paranorman, which was a stop motion film.
It's a stop motion, and what I did really is I went in and I did facial design for dialogue and for expressions and things like that. So I spent the whole time up there just doing facial stuff. So
did you move up to Portland? Because that was done
for a short time. I moved up, and then they let me come back because they didn't want to pay for a hotel room for forever.
Right. And that was help me with the name of the company because it's on the tip of my tongue. Leica, thank you. Yes, it's Travis Knight's company.
Yeah, Travis Knight.
And I liked Paranorman. I thought that was a really fun film.
I still love it. I just love the story, and it's fun, and it's something you can sit with kids through too. So
yeah. When you were doing the facial, sort of the facial design, were they doing head replacements or face replacements?
They were doing partial replacements. So they were building models. They were building all the models in 3D, but they were building them in color. And they had this color printer. So they were getting these like super consistent color prints that they would sit magnets in the back of, and they would pull the face off or pull the mouth off, and then they would go in later and just remove the lines.
So they essentially did digital restoration to hide the seams.
Yeah, they hide the seams in the face.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, no, beautifully done. And when you were talking about color printing, you're talking about 3D printers.
3D printers. Yeah. So they would have exactly the same tones of blush on the cheek and the skin tones and the hair, and they would just pull the pieces off and replace them. I really wanted one of those puppets. And I would go down, and that's one of the funny things about, when you're an animator and you're at a studio and you're on the set or wherever, is you get to go to those sets. Those sets were amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real treat when you get a chance to see the sets of a stop motion film.
Yeah, I really love stop motion, guys. Yeah. I don't have a preference for what kind of animation I think is the best. I don't have any single preference. I love all the different versions of. I loved Guillermo's.
Yes, awesome. I did too, and I actually had a chance to see the MoMA show in New York City where they had the puppets and some of the sets on display in a gallery there. It was really very impressive. Very
beautiful
impressive
design. Yeah.
Yeah. So from Paranorman, you went on to Smurfs, the legend of Smurfy Hollow. The thing I have to tell you, Darlie, as we've been talking, you have such an eclectic range of projects you've worked on. Everything from top of the pile with Disney animation to television style animation to stop motion to just all these different genres and styles.
Well, there was a couple of weeks back, we were talking about, why, some people stay at a company for so long and that, they like that style of animation or they like doing that stuff. And then there are people, weirdos like myself, who just love everything.
Yeah.
If you asked me to pick what music I like best, I couldn't, because I love classical, I love jazz, I love funk, I love everything. I have this thing, and wouldn't you want to try? It's like the most fun to experiment or do different styles.
Yeah, Aljon and I had this conversation last week about, music and what kind of music I like, because I'm the same way. I'm very eclectic. I listen to just about everything that runs the spectrum, from classical to, hip hop and some rap and country and, just classics and,
not me.
It just runs the gamut.
Not me. I'm a yacht rock guy. I listen to yacht rock. I listen to Toto all day, every day now.
I listen to yacht rock as well. So, it just depends on, the mood you're in and all of that.
Well, they say variety.
I'm a Kiss fan.
Yeah, there you go. They say variety is the spice of life. So keep it up there. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you, Smurfs, The Legends of Smurfy Hollow. Who's the production company on that?
That was Duck. That used to be Duck Soup, but is now Duck, or was Duck. And I got brought in by Stephen Frank, who I worked with on 8 Crazy Nights. I really loved 8 Crazy Nights. They actually had me do a commercial for 8 Crazy Nights. The director brought me in after the production was over and had me do the commercial. But I think they liked the stuff I did, so whatever. Anyway.
I didn't realize Duck Soup did Smurfs, The Legends of Smurfy Hollow.
They had done a previous one. There was a Christmas one and stuff. So this was kind of the same deal. That's a long story that we could do a whole program on that one production alone. But at the same time, we won't. I love working with Stefan Frank. He's over at Sony now. He's doing the What If series, but great director to work with. A lot of fun. It was a lot of pressure to do very fast. We used Spain, and we used a couple other companies over in Europe to produce. The guys who did
Sandro Cluzo.
Yeah,
not Sandra.
No, yeah. Sergio.
Sergio Pop. Yes, Sergio.
Terrific animator. Yeah.
Yeah, I always want to say Sandro Cluzo, who's also a very good animator.
Yes, he is. I worked with him. He did a couple scenes. He did a couple scenes for me on the Family Guy special, the Disney thing.
Now, did you, when you were working on Smurfs at Duck Soup, were you working in-house or freelance?
Yeah, I was in-house, yeah.
You were in-house.
I was Stefan. I was doing corrections for all the companies out there.
I got you.
So, we'd sit down with Stefan and he would say, whatever he wanted to fix or change or whatever, and I would just give them the notes. I would do the drawings and give them their notes. And same thing I did on, all the other films.
So that would be while you were at Duck Soup, that's why you worked on Wild About Safety, Timon and Pumbaa, Safety Smart, Honest and Real, and several of the others, right?
Yeah. That's why I went right into the whole...
See, Aljon, all roads lead back to Wild About Safety.
It really does. It really does. Dave, you are the Kevin Bacon of the animated universe.
I was going to say, forget Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. You know something, Darlie, the Wild About Safety videos, because I just so our listeners know, I produced and directed all 8 of them, but we had such a great group of people. We did them through Duck Soup. They were sort of our vendor, if you will, while I was was at Disney, and we had such great people work on it. I mean, Tony Bancroft, who was the lead for Pumbaa on the Lion King movie, was doing Pumbaa for our little safety videos. But you know what, Darlie? All of those videos run on their own channel at the Disney park resorts. At the hotel, you know, the in-room at the hotels, there's a channel that has all of those films running. And throughout the year, I always get these notes from people going, oh, we were at Disney World and our kids loved the Wild About Safety. We saw your name in the credits, you know? Yeah, it's just hilarious.
I was looking for some of them because I really liked some of the scenes. So there was not just me, but Bruce Smith and you name it, all these really, really good.
We had some great people work on those. Terrific.
And they would send in their stuff really quick. It was a lot of fun to work on.
Were you looking for some of the DVDs?
I was looking for some of the DVDs.
Because I have a whole stack of them. I can get you a couple of them if you want them.
Okay.
I really do.
I'll touch you later for them.
Yeah. Just remind me. I'll pop them in the mail to you. I have several different ones. So I think I have Honest and Real.
Yeah, because I hadn't seen some of them. Some of them I saw pieces of. There are some pieces on the web of things that I did. And I'm like, hey, these look pretty good.
Well, I have to tell you, and these numbers are like 10, 12 years old, but those Wild About Safety films at that time, and again, a decade ago, were seen by over 200 million people worldwide, and they're in 34 languages. Yeah, and they're actually part of school curriculums in Singapore, in the Netherlands, in the United Arab Emirates. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable, you know, the reach that those things have had. And it was Aljon and I are going to do actually a whole show on Wild About Safety.
You should. You should. You know. It's an interesting side thing that just came out of nowhere. And Dan, when I first started, we was just like, he didn't want me. He wanted Matt O'Callahan, who I love, by the way. Matt is one of the greatest people. Yeah. And I guess by the end of the whole Smurf thing, he was okay. Yeah, you can animate. It's like,
hey, by the way, I got to give Dan Ridgers credit because I didn't think we could do those in Los Angeles. And again, you know, a lot of the animation was done over at Wang Studios in Taipei. Yes. But it was really Dan who came over and met with me, and we started to sort of spitball how we could possibly keep them in Los Angeles. And we were able to save on the budget by repurposing a lot of the backgrounds from the Lion King movie.
Nice. Oh,
you know, so we were very, very smart about how we sort of put that project together. And the first one we did, I mean, I had like no budget for the first one. And when we delivered the first one, everybody was blown away. They thought we delivered them the Lion King movie, you know, and I said flat out at that meeting, I said, I'm glad you love it. We can't do it for that budget anymore. We'd have to have more money. And everybody coughed up more money. So we wound up doing 8 of them, and I think they turned out really well.
Well, around the last couple shows, I said, because we were redrawing a lot of scenes, you know, them walking in and walking out. I said, look, I did like 5 years at the Hanna-Barbera doing the stock footage, and I know how to do this really quick. So I started doing stock walks, that thing. So when you get those profile walks, where there were lots of those, I just used those stock walks, and they worked perfectly.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I think everybody stepped up to the plate on that, on those films, and it was all about just creating top quality as best as we could do with the budget that we actually had, you know. And it was just something else. So after Wild About Safety, you're the lead animator and designer on a title sequence for Out West. Tell us about that project.
That was approached to me by. Do you remember the Michael Moore series? The Michael Moore. It was like
Michael Moore, the documentary, Roger and Me, and all the other documentaries he's done.
He did a TV series, and the guy who played the chicken in that TV series was a director named Lee, and he ran up and he said, I'm looking for somebody to do this animation. And I said, well, okay, what's your budget? And he says, I won't tell you what it was too low. But the lead actress in the film is one of my favorite actresses. And I said, I'll tell you what, because I love her so much, I'm going to do this, but you're going to have to cut together the film. Oops, I think we lost you there. So, you're going to have to cut together the film. So I'll put it all together and comp it, do the backgrounds, do everything, but you got to do the film. So you got to do the final edit. And it was ridiculous. I did it in about 3 weeks. I had to redo their boards because their boards were so elaborate. They had cattle walking in and walking out and stuff and all kinds of junk that just couldn't be done in that space of time.
So this is a live action film out west, and it stars Jennifer Elise Cox,
Yes.
Sean Astin, and Beth Grant.
Yes.
Among others.
Yes.
And was that released to the theaters?
I think it was released at Outfest. I don't know that. I know that it is. It's a pay-per-view online. You can get it on. I don't know that it went. It was.
You can stream it.
I was going to say,
you can stream it on Amazon or Tubi.
So out west, so it's like Outfest, out west.
Yes.
Okay, so it's an LGBTQ movie.
Yes, it's about this rich girl who's married to this guy who becomes gay. Well, he doesn't become gay. He comes out as gay and leaves her. And her parents' farm is apparently oil wells ran dry, and so they're going to be destitute, and so she tries to turn it into a dude ranch for gay people.
Okay, it sounds like a great premise.
It was funny. It was a bit extreme, but I think it was funny. I really love Jennifer Elise Cox. She was Jan in the new Brady Bunch movie.
Marsha.
And she's done a ton of stuff, and I really love her. So I did it for virtually nothing. I talked other people to do it in for virtually nothing. I used the money because I didn't have paint software at the time. I basically used the money to hire other people and buy paint software.
Got it.
So I painted it all myself.
So it was a real shoestring budget.
Yeah, super shoestring. Shoestring beyond shoestring. This is like bubblegum budget. But I did it for love. So
all right, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to jump over a couple of smaller projects because I really want to get to, because you've done so much stuff. I mean, you did a short called Unhinged. You did Tom and Jerry Back to Oz. You did Harley Quinn.
The Karate Guard.
Hair Love. Tell me about Hair Love, because that was an Academy. Am I correct in saying that won the Academy Award?
Yes, it did.
Matthew
Terry. Terry was his original.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrific animated short. Tell us about that.
I was approached by Bruce Smith, who said, would you like to work on it? They needed people to do setups for their harmony actors.
Yeah.
And so basically, I animated scenes for them. I've shown the scenes of what I did. I did a lot of the mom and a lot of the little girl.
Now, if I remember correctly, was that done CG?
No, it was done Harmony.
Oh, it was done. Okay, it was all done in Harmony. Right. Okay. And I fully animated it 2D when when we were doing roughs for them, because they wanted that look and that feel. Yeah. And was Bruce is an executive producer on it?
He was a designer and stuff.
Okay.
I think he did their model sheets and stuff.
Okay. And then I don't recall who directed it.
I think it was Matthew who did it. I think he directed it.
Matthew Cherry. Yeah.
And he since it was his story, his original story, it was pretty easy for him to do, I think.
Yeah. And how was it working on that short?
Oh, it was terrific. We went through it pretty fast, but it was, one of the things I had never done was drawing people with afros, and that was a real challenge to understand the substructure of that and keep it consistent, make it decent. Someday I may this is what I do, I may tie down those drawings and see what it would have looked like in straight 2D rather than the Harmony thing. But I think it totally suits the the look of Harmony and the solid color mask thing.
And that was done in 2019. How did it feel when it won an Academy Award? Because I thought it was a wonderful short.
Oh, me too. I was freaking out. Matthew Cherry at the time was on the internet, and I went to this thing, and I was so happy for him. So beautiful, like you say, it's a rare thing that you get these shorts that really deserve it. And I've been an Academy member for a long time. I tried to see every single film, and I've seen so many shorts. And in 1 year, you'll see like 90 shorts. So
I'm in the middle of going through the shorts on the Academy screening room right now.
I admire you.
I watch as many as I possibly can. Sometimes I sit down and I watch, 4 or 5 in a row, and then, a day or two later, sit down and do the same thing again.
More, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm not voting now. I've gone emeritus. Yeah, because I've got so many things to do that I'm doing on my own. But I really, for the years that I was voting, I tried to make sure that I got to see every single person's film.
Yeah.
Because I know how hard it is to make these films. Yeah. And I stuck strictly to the animation stuff because
I can only do the animation. I can't do the live action.
I did 1 year.
Yeah, I just can't do it. I just, for the time constraints I have, I kind of just say I'll do the animation. I try to watch as many of those as possible. So, Hair Love was a great short, and I love going to the Academy to see, sort of the nominated ones or at least the short list of the ones that are up for consideration. But you did Hair Love, and then you went on to Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Yep. Actually, Unhinged was also in the running for the Academy too.
Oh, that was as well?
Yeah. It was something I'd worked on, because I asked them, I said, I worked on this, can I vote on it? And they said, yeah, you can vote on it. It's fine. So.
Well, tell me about your experience on Space Jam: A New Legacy, because, again, this is a different technique. This is live action and animation together.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, we'd done some of that in commercials and stuff, because I was so many commercials. We had live combinations. It was not a big deal. This was. I really liked the film. What was I going to say? Spike I had worked with on Oz, and we had done, I would do, when we were doing the Karate Guard, I did it for free because I love Spike. Spike is just a wonderful director, and he's the most Warner Brothers animator I've ever seen. So he called me in to work on this, and it was a joy. I got to be on the lot for a while before COVID really struck. Yeah. After about 6 months, they took us off the lot. It's really important for artists. Being in a studio, oops, we're getting a little unstableness here. Being in a studio, seeing other artists draw, seeing other artists, how they approach a scene. It's really, the studio system to me was probably the best system there was. It's really hard to do things long distance when you're working in a vacuum.
I was gonna say the same thing. I kind of feel like you miss that camaraderie by working, at home in your own office, not having the opportunity, if you get up, to stretch your legs and bump into somebody in the hallway and then talk about something that you're both working on, and those kinds of that kind of camaraderie and just bouncing ideas off of one another.
Yeah. For me, some of the times I learned the most was when I was standing over somebody watching them draw, how they approach the scene, how they, actually interesting, John Pomeroy would draw while talking to me. He's talking to me and he's not looking at his drawings, but his hand's so in control, he's drawing. I'm going, how is he doing this?
As you were talking, before you even mentioned John Pomeroy's name, he popped into my head.
Really?
Because I know when you look over his shoulder, the way he holds his pencil.
Yes.
He's kind of holding the pencil more towards the top by the eraser, and it's almost like a conductor with a baton.
Yep, crazy.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing. So Space Jam: A New Legacy, working on that because you were working off of photostats?
Um, no, we were working actually. Well, sort of. Here's the difference with this was,
Yeah.
we were doing it in harmony.
So you were working on a Cintiq?
Yeah, so I was working on a Cintiq, and we were doing the drawings over live, but it was within harmony.
Got it. Okay. So I want our listeners to understand that, like when I did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, they actually printed every frame on paper, so the photostats. Yeah. But you fast forward to Space Jam, which is 2020, you're using a digital tablet where you're seeing sort of a projection of the frame of the live action, and you're able to draw on top of that.
Yes, the live has been pulled into the Harmony program. Yeah. Which kind of slows it down a little, but it's fine. And then, the process is pretty much the same. We'll draw it into the Cintiq, and then we'll send it to Spike, and he'll do drawovers on another level, or whatever, or give us notes on another level, and then it's the same kind of process you would go through for regular drawing. It's not hard, I don't think. It's not hard.
No, I don't think it is either. It's just it's a different process.
Yeah, it is. Totally.
Yeah. So it was very cumbersome when we were using photostats.
Yeah, because you'd have the stacks of photostats, and then you'd have the drawings stuck between them. The photostats are always bigger.
Yeah, and then even sometimes you'd have to go in and do sort of like pre-trace, with a blue pencil, some markers for yourself off of the photostat, and then put the photostats aside, and then just use your paper with your light box on.
Yeah, you give yourself a reference, like an edge line of where things are happening.
Yes.
At Disney, we would get a lot of photostats of the actors, but I mean that was just like character reference, and I never drew off them. I flipped them, and as I flipped them, I would draw on my thing. Yeah.
So it would be you're using it as reference, really, which is what the old timers did as well.
Yeah,
they were using it as reference, or you might pull a key or two, but you're not tracing it frame by frame.
No, if you do that, you kind of lose the control of the scene.
Yeah, and it doesn't look right.
No, it looks like trace live action.
Yeah. All right. So you finish Space Jam: A New Legacy, and you go on to Green Eggs and Ham, another Seuss project.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. That was I did it twice. Actually, I did it for a company in Montreal, and then I did it for a company in France first, and then I did it for a company in Montreal. And everything was, the thing is the feedback was so slow. It was a really bad system because, you would send something to France, and then they'd send it to California and then the California would send it back to France, and then it would come back to you. So it's like, yeah. And that's, I think, usually because they couldn't do it union wise or whatever, but you could work for a company outside the outside the country.
So I'm curious, have you always been in the Screen Cartoonist Guild, or were you sort of in and out?
Oh, I've been in it for a long time. Oh, well, I went out for a little while because, I was working for companies like Leica and
right. They're not signatories to the
I think they are now. I think they are now. But I especially when you take a year off, I went on an honorable withdrawal or whatever for, whatever time that I was working for outside companies. I didn't really, I figured, well, even now I don't have to pay dues because I'm retired. But at the same time, I was paying my dues right up till about a couple months ago because I wasn't sure whether I was going to go back and do stuff.
So are you officially retired?
Yeah, now I'm officially retired.
So you're not even picking up any freelance or anything?
No, I someday I will. I might. I'll see what, if it's got to be something really interesting or something really good, because
got it.
It's the hassle of, pausing your Social Security and all this stuff is a
Right.
pain in the butt. But if it was worth it for the project, and me, I will do, if it's something really fun or crazy, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I put myself through hell for fun things.
So tell me about Operation Alley Cat.
Operation Alley Cat was just this guy who was doing this cat film, and it was a little more a mentor thing. I took his designs and redrew them and sort of said, look, this is how you do a rotation. This is what you do with this. I'll take, I think a few people did that for him because he's an interesting kid and he really wants to do the story. And it sounded like an interesting story to begin with. And sometimes he'll just do it to mentor people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very fast.
So now that you're retired, you look back over your entire career.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Fun. It was so much fun. Yeah. It was more than I could have expected it ever to be. And I got to go to the places that I wanted to go. I was at Disney and I was at DreamWorks and I was at Columbia. I was at Sony. I was at,
Warner Brothers and
Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love doing osmosis shows. That was a lot of fun. And there's like tons of stuff that I have done on the sides as commercials or special projects or interesting stuff. I never really had that desire to be in one place forever. And I don't know if this is like a Canadian thing. Like we're like weird kind of nomad people, but I just really love the whole diversity of animation. I was crazy about Puppetoons and plasticine animation, Will Vinton and all that stuff. I went crazy for anything that was like creatively fun.
Mm. And
when I found out one of my friends, I didn't know William Festerman actually worked on that Will Vinton film. He did a lot of Becky and the Will Vinton film. It's funny, people you don't even know do that stuff. It's crazy. I have no regrets whatsoever, and I really sacrificed myself for the longest time. 10 in the morning till 10 at night every day. 6 days a week or 7 sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of us do that. A lot of us. But in the end, I think, I'm happy with even the bad films that I did.
Well, you know what? I always say you're proud of the work you did on every project.
Yeah.
You didn't have control on whether it was going to be a good or bad movie, but you're proud of what you did on it.
No, I am. I mean, it's like Nutcracker Prince, which I think was a really good idea. My animation was different than other people's, and unfortunately, but I used their same designs. And people would recognize in the middle of this film, hey, wait, there's something weird happening here. Because I had done all this like really full animation and they were kind of doing very tight, limited stuff. So
yeah. Let me ask you, what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out in the business today?
I would say, don't worry about your drawing. Worry about what you do, what it is you're saying. Think of things like when I think now of, like, it's taken me forever to get to the point where what I think in my head, I put on paper. I can put it on paper. It looks exactly like it was here. That took a long, long time to do that. And I think really what we do is we limit ourselves, but with our drawing ability. So we say we can only draw this, so we only try to draw that. And I think that, being an artist, you should really try and think beyond what you normally would, what you normally could do. Don't give yourself limits. Make mistakes, have failures, do whatever it is it takes to push yourself past things. So, yeah, I'm an anarchist in that sense. I love the anarchy of it. There's some great stuff, like with those safety films. There's dancing and all kinds of things that we did that you wouldn't get a chance to do normally.
Right.
It was just like out of the blue, out of nowhere.
But we had a lot of fun with those.
Yeah.
We really
did.
You
can do it with anything. So the diversity to me was really important. And I don't think I have a favorite thing either. I think all of the films from my first to my last were, my favorites.
Well, Darlie, we've come to the end, and I want to just say thank you so much for being on the Skull Rock podcast.
Thank you for asking me.
And I just think you've had an amazingly diverse and fascinating career because you've worked on so many different types of animation. I mean, really, you're an inspiration, I think, for a lot of people coming up through the ranks to try different things and again, just throw yourself into the business if this is what you want to do, right?
Yeah, it's a wonderful art, and I'm just lucky to have been, there and had the right time to be in places at the right time.
The coolest thing about what you all are doing as artists and filmmakers is the fact that you add so much to the fabric of people's lives. It's forever going to be there for me and my family and for other people to enjoy. And so that is a really cool thing. And you get to live out your dream. As you said, you work for all these great studios and animated these classic characters. So, hats off, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. I was just there at the right time.
Well, thank you again, Darlie Brewster, animator extraordinaire, for being on the Skull Rock podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Skull Rock Podcast is thrilled to announce that we are now on Patreon. Dive deeper into the world of animation, films, and behind-the-scenes stories with your hosts Aljon Go and Dave Bossert. Not only will you be helping to keep the magic alive, but will be part of our special community. We want to thank our Skull Rock crew members, Steve Minch and Chris Banas, for their support. If you would like to join our Skull Rock crew, please visit our Patreon link in our show notes or visit patreon.com/Skull Rock Podcast. Thank you for listening and for your continued support of everything we do.
Hi, I'm designer Kevin Kidney, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Your attention, please. Now loading on track number 1 for a trip around Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom.
Skull Rock Podcast.
All aboard.
Your main street to the world of Disney.
All right, that train left the station, Dave, and that takes care of part 3 of our chat with Darlie Brewster. And once again, it's so great that she was able to stop in and chronicle her career with us.
Absolutely. I think she's had an absolutely fantastic career. She's Canadian, originally from Canada, and now resides in the U.S., but really has worked on such an eclectic array of animation projects, from features to TV to, just special projects. And it was very enjoyable and very insightful to talk to her about her career. So I hope our listeners enjoyed that 3-part interview.
You know what? I really appreciate the fact that she's mentored and helped out so many animators that needed it, whether it was, women that were needing help and she started her animation house or whatever the case is. But, I think the great thing that we're learning from so many of our guests is that there is still so much left that they can contribute. And I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm hoping that if filmmakers are listening, that they can really tap on these resources that are still here doing great work, mentoring the next generation of animators to carry on a legacy of excellence. I'm really hoping they heed the call, that they tap these people to bring them on board these projects and pass on this knowledge, because it's so needed. These people are passionate. These people know what they're doing, and they can help bridge the gap and bring quality animation and storytelling and filmmaking and art into what is kind of milquetoast right now in a lot of different ways. And I know a lot of people are doing milquetoast content just to put out content for content's sake and to help fill time and streaming services. But I really feel that these people should be tapped for these projects.
I agree with you. And I often tell people, some people say, are you retired? Retirement's not in my vocabulary, Aljon. You don't retire. You shift gears. You change. Your career evolves. You move into doing different things. And I hope that a lot of these folks that are saying they're retired actually stay engaged. And what's wonderful that I'm starting to see is a lot of the veteran animators are just going off and doing their own shorts. Yeah. Andreas Deja, John Musker, Aaron Blaze, You know, there's other people who are in the midst of doing their own animated shorts, and they're putting those films out into the world for people to enjoy and also to learn from. So, you know, in my mind, you know, hone your skills as an artist and an animator through a lifetime, and you don't just retire, you continue going and you give back to the next generation that's coming up with advice or teaching or whatever it might be. But you just get up every day and be excited about what you're doing and figure out what that next chapter is.
Yes, exactly. An artist must be there to create. I think all these people show incredible passion and incredible drive, and I'm so happy that they're still creating and not letting the world tell them, you know, when they're done. Right. And we've talked about that on the show, Aljon. I mean, we you know, ageism is the ism that nobody's really talking about, but ageism is rampant, not only in the entertainment industry, but in a lot of industries. People are looking at folks that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years and saying, oh my gosh, you know, we're going to hire some younger people to do it cheaper, you know, and oftentimes that winds up costing you a lot more than if you just went with somebody who had the experience. 100%. I mean, it affects me in my career too, you know, and I was younger and it still affected me. It's crazy to me, but you're right. You said it, ageism, you know, let's people are talented. Let's share and embrace talent, and let's mentor people. And, you know, and that's one thing I love about our guests. They are all doing it, and they're all quality people. So tap them for these projects. That's all I can say about that.
Absolutely.
Once again, gang, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you granting me the opportunity to get on my soapbox for just a second. But if, once again, you love Disney and pop culture like we do, please subscribe to the show on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube. We're there too. All right. Follow us on X and Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're on Blue Sky. Go ahead and do it. Our podcast website is down, but it will be back up. Just Google it. You'll find our show archives. We're there. You can also email us with feedback, because we'd love to hear from you. And I tell you, I love listener feedback. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. Dave or Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. Once again, you can check me out on my social. I'm on Instagram. Check out Aljon Go, ALJONGO on Instagram. And you can also follow the other podcasts that I'm on, Dining at Disney Podcast, which we are celebrating 400 episodes this week, Dave. 400 episodes. So
wow,
please
congratulations.
Check out Dining at Disney Podcast.
That is awesome.
Thank you so much. I also would like to send a shout out to remember Eddie Van Halen, who was born on the day we record this, as well as my mom. Rest in peace, Mom and Eddie. Yeah, I know you're rocking out there to the Skull Rock Podcast. All right, Dave, go ahead.
So, Aljon, you know, I keep harping on it, but now we are a month away from being in Nashville, February 21st to the 23rd at the Animation Y'all Expo. So I'm looking forward to that. And by the way, next week, we're going to have Tony and Tom Bancroft, the two Bancroft brothers who have put together the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville. We're going to have them on the show to talk about what people can expect to see and who's going to be there. I'm very excited to talk with them. So we're looking forward to that. That's going to drop next Monday. So, again, I hope people in the middle of the country who are in driving distance to Nashville will come and visit the Animation Y'all Expo. Also, I just want to remind everybody, my Tunes Behind the Tunes is on Sirius XM, Disney Hits. January, we're featuring A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes from Disney's 1950 animated classic, Cinderella.
Nice.
And then you can always get signed copies of my books. I say this every week, theoldmillpress.com, including my latest book, Find Your Happy Place, the 8-Step Guide to Boosting Your Creativity Through a Personal Retreat, winner of a gold medal at the Fire Book Awards in Texas. Hey, listen, I'm going to milk it. And you can always go to davidbossert.com. Lots of free content. I'm still working on updating that website, but the website, working on websites is a nightmare.
It is.
It really is. I mean, our Skull Rock website is down. I mean, my websites blew up before the holidays. You know, they're back up now. But I mean, for crying out loud, I wish somebody would reach out to me and say, hey, Dave, I am a reliable website person who will help you for a reasonable price.
There you go.
Well, you can always email me if you want to. Okay. With that, I'm going to say, Aljon, go out, have a fantastic week. The last week of January, for crying out loud. Go out, enjoy yourself, be kind to one another. We'll see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.
Kristen, what is our travel deal for this week?
My travel deal is for Disney Plus subscribers who are going to go on a Disney cruise. You can save 50% for the third and fourth guests who are under 18 years of age on select cruises. So you'll pay full price for the first two guests, and then third and fourth will be half price as long as they are 17 and younger. And this is going to be for Disney Wonder, Disney Dream, and the Disney Wish. It's for select sailings from now through June 13th. Of course, there are restrictions, but there's a lot of sailings to choose from.
There is a reason why Disney Cruise Line is a top-rated cruise line amongst people and families especially. They are number one. So, Kristen, where can people email you for their free quote?
They can contact me at themeparksandcruises@gmail.com.